आप अपना पीपीटी मैम एक बार शेयर कर ले।
हाँ।
हाँ ठीक है ठीक है ठीक है, आ रहा है।
हाँ देख आ रहा है ना।
जी जी जी।
So last time we were doing aggregate planning. Remember, from production.
Yes, ma'am.
From
Aggregate
production
planning.
control to aggregate. So once you have done the aggregate planning, like suppose you are going to manufacture computers. So there can be various types of computers you will be manufacturing. So for the total, how much, what do you require? That is aggregate planning. Then you have to disaggregate it. See what type, each type, because for each different types of computer, there might be slight variation in requirement. So that is what is master production scheduling. Can you see this slide?
Yes, ma'am. Planning sequence.
Planning sequence. So all these three things. You read, Praveen.
Yeah, ma'am. Praveen is not there. Not yet joined.
Corporate strategies and policies.
Yes, ma'am. Corporate planning sequence, corporate strategies and policies, economic, competitive, and political conditions, aggregate demand forecast.
All these three
Under
are
that,
the input.
business plan, aggregate plan, yeah. Business plan, aggregate plan, and master schedule. Yes, ma'am. Business plan establishes operations and capacity strategies, and aggregate plan establishes operations capacity, and master schedule establishes schedules for specific products, operations, and capacity strategies.
So this is the planning. So these three things. What is the corporate strategies and policies? Like say, for example, as I told you, Dell, it manufactures computers, but it does not manufacture only one type of computers. It manufactures so many different types of computers. So how much is the requirement that it gets from the external demand, from the external environment? What is the competitive environment? What is the economic environment? What is the political condition? All these things will be affecting your business plan. Then what is the aggregate demand and forecast? What at the total, what do you need for that particular period? Aggregate demand is not for a long term, it is for a short term. It comes under tactical decision making. So first of all, you make the business plan, which is nothing but establishes operations and capacity strategies. Then you make the aggregate plan from there. So total how much you require, establishes operations capacity. Then from there you disaggregate it into different, like for example, it makes computers. Now, how many of each type they require? So master schedule establishes schedule for specific products, operations and capacity strategies. So this is the planning sequence of any organization. It can be cars. So it won't be passenger cars. For example, Tata Motors, it manufactures more both passengers cars as well as commercial vehicle. So how much, and in passenger cars also there will be different types. In commercial vehicles also there will be different types. So, so that first of all it establishes its business plan. Then from there the aggregate plan, how much material they require and other inputs they require for producing the number of vehicles they are going to produce in future. That they get how much from the forecast, and then from there they plan the master schedule, how much of each specific type of products they are going to produce. Yes. And Praveen,
Yes, explanation. The master schedule is the heart of production, planning, and control. It determines the quantities needed to meet demand from all sources that governs key decisions and derivatives throughout the organization. We can say it is this aggregating the aggregate plan.
can you see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm? So, suppose divide this by the aggregate. And from here, you move to disaggregating it. How many specific types of material items you are going to produce, and for each, what do you require? This is the totality. From there, you are going moving to specific products. So this is the total layout or the flow of programs that will be for long range. It is what, like as I have already explained, that long range is what is your ultimate goal, what are your, that is the strategic planning. Then you have in the intermediate range, which is the tactical planning, and then you have short range, which is the operational planning. In the long range, you have corporate strategic planning, what they want to produce. Then what is their capacity? Because suppose if you want to produce something, then you should have the capacity to produce. Do you have the capability and the capacity and everything to produce what is in the demand? Then in intermediate range, what is the forecast and demand? For forecasting and demand, you come to know how much material is required by the external environment. So this, first you start with the aggregate planning, aggregate operation plan, production plan. Then you move to master scheduling, disaggregate it, find out the specific materials you want to produce. And for that you need material. So that is material requirement planning and order scheduling. So from there, the short range is the order scheduling. In a small time, date or day to day or weekly basis, what you, how do you order the things, how do you get the thing, what type of work you are going to do, all this will come into short range. Yes, Praveen or Harshita, who,
Yes, ma'am. Master scheduler. Most manufacturing organizations have or should have a master scheduler. Duties of the master scheduler generally include firstly, evaluating the impact of new orders. Secondly, providing delivery dates for orders. Thirdly, dealing with problems. A, evaluating the impact of production delays or late deliveries of purchased goods. B, revising the master schedule when necessary because of insufficient supplies or capacity. C, bring instance of insufficient capacity to the attention of production and marketing personnel so that they can participate in resolving conflicts.
So it is the master scheduler who has to do all these things. Okay, what will be the impact? Suppose you get a new order of say and types of uh, goods or services. So first you have to see what will be the impact. For that you will require raw material, you will require human resource, you will require finance, everything. So first of all, you have to evaluate the impact of that new order. Then you make a schedule, you make all the programs and see by what time you can deliver those orders. And then dealing with problems. What all problems will come in the way, you have to deal it. Whether you are deviating from the planned way or revising if it is necessary, if the insufficient supplies or capacity is there. So all these things the master scheduler has to do. So he has to see that whatever is the demand, it is being fulfilled in a most effective and efficient way. So these are the master scheduling process. This is a you have the input, as I have told you. Any uh, operation is a input output system. Input, processing, and then output. How much materials you have in the beginning, what is your inventory level, then what is the forecast, how much is required in the environment, and what is the actual order you have received. So these are the inputs. Then you do the master scheduling, plan uh, everything accordingly, uh, do the operations, and then you get the output, projected uh, uh, inventory, master production schedule, uncommitted inventory. All these things are the output of this master scheduling. So aggregate planning and master production. So this is the market environment, resource base and technology. Forecast customer demand, order, capacity of facility. This you have to match. The external and the internal. Market, what is the market environment? What is the forecast by the customers, order by the customers? Then, and what are your resources? What is your capacity? What technology you'll be using? All these things you have to match, and then only you can make the aggregate production plan. And from aggregate production plan you go to master schedule, production schedule. So and this will give you materials requirement, what all materials will be requirement, and also the capacity requirements. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Master production scheduling. MPS sets the quantity of each end item to be completed in each time period, week, month, quarter of the short range planning horizon. Objectives of master production scheduling. Firstly, the schedule end items to be completed promptly and when promised to customers. Secondly, to avoid overloading or underloading the production facility so that production capacity is efficiently utilized and low production costs result. Functions of MPS. Uh, Translating aggregate plans, evaluating alternative master schedules, generating material and capacity requirements, facilitating information processing, maintaining priorities, utilizing the capacity effectively.
So you can see, as I have already told you, it is disaggregating the aggregate plan. So for that period, how much of each specific item is required, how it will be produced, to schedule an item so that it is produced on time and whenever the customer requires it. And you should avoid both overloading and underloading of the facility, because both will hamper the operation. Both overloading and underloading will the production facility, so that the production facility is used efficiently. Nothing is wasted and it runs smoothly. And this will naturally result in low production cost. So, what are the functions of MPS? It is translating the aggregate plan, first of all, total how much is required, and for each specific items how much is required. You are translating the aggregate plan into master scheduling plan, which is disaggregating the aggregate plan. Then you can have more than one way of doing the job. So you have to see the different alternatives and choose the best alternative from it. Then you have to, what are the materials are required from here, as it has been shown over here also, material requirement and capacity requirement. Those both are generated from your master scheduling. And naturally, information, facilitating information processing. See, what all information is required to produce the desired result. Then when, which has to be done first, which has to be done second, scheduling, which process has to be given priority, all these things, that is the function of MPS. So that the capacity is used effectively, so that whatever is planned is being produced at the least cost and the least wastage. Yes, this is
What
the
is
next plate.
what is MPS? After the aggregate plan has been developed, it is disaggregated or broken into specific product requirements. Secondly, this leads to master schedule, which indicates the planned quantities and limit and timing of specific outputs.
As I have already explained, if from aggregate you go to MPS, and from this to master schedule tells you how the whole operation will move for each specific product.
Inputs of
Saurabh, you have
MPS.
start?
Yeah, continue, Praveen.
Okay. Input of MPS.
Hmm.
On-hand inventories, forecast of demand, customer order.
So these are the inputs. On this, you will be producing the desired number of products, which we have already done in this beginning inventory, forecast, customer orders. Master production schedule, known orders, key capacity constraints, inventory level, spares demand, safety stock requirements, uh, promotion requirement, exhibition of production requirement, research and demand, design demand, sister plant demand, forecast demand. All these are the inputs of a master production schedule.
Output of MPS. Available to promise, present the available to promise quantities for each MPS line item. The report is time phased, usually into weekly or monthly buckets. Demand tracking report provide historical data and actual shipment and order booking as compared to management forecast. Forecast data report summary of historical demand activity, which indicates the significance of error between forecast and actual, and provide a statistical summary. Period summary forecast by line item within a product group for each period
Through the future of 12. Hello, can't see.
Yes, ma'am. Through the future 12 periods with summaries by period for the group and yearly for line items. An item demand and forecast presents several years of historical data. User data elements can user specified, and the next 12 months of forecast demand for each item. Typical data elements can include YTD totals, total yearly demands, and quarterly totals with comparisons by percent between items and their total product group. And build schedule report reports the build schedule for one or all assemblies and schedule versus actual output. Reports the actual output compared with the schedule output in particular work center. And where used report list of parts or tools used for each work center or machine.
So these are the outputs of your master scheduling. It, so these different types of reports it produces so that it helps uh, available to promise a report, then demand tracking report, forecast data report, period summary forecast, item demand and forecast, bill schedule report. So schedule versus actual output, and it is used by all each workstation or machine wherever the process is going on. So this is summarized. MPS is nothing but it is producing. What is it is producing? Can you see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm?
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm? That was specific. Sorry, that was specific products which we were talking, but here it is a summary of it. So MPS is master production schedule when and how much to produce for each product, and also the capacity planning to produce that particular product, what capacity, what things you require, the machine, the human resource, the technology, the finances, all these things. Because you have to match these two things. This is nothing but the same thing, but it is a more general. The input you have planned order, forecast demand, current and planned availability, initial inventory, initiated production, subcontracted quantities, all these things. Maybe part of that the product you are subcontracting, some you are what was your initial inventory, all those things, all those information has to be taken into account. What is your capacity constraint, production, what is your production policies, what are your product characteristics, what are the financial considerations, then the planning, what is your planning horizon, and this gives you when and how much to produce for each product. What are the
Gaurav, I will continue.
Okay, okay.
objectives of MPS?
Inventory control. MPS oversees inventory and attempt to keep our desired level of inventory available within the company. This is completed through making perfect use of the resources available and minimizing overall cost and waste within the operation. Inventory control is one of the main objectives of MPS and can benefit the manufacturing operation immensely. Setting up due dates. This objective part
Pertains.
pertains to setting up the the due dates for availability of end item and also providing information pertaining to resource and material. This object this objective as the foundation of aggregate planning within the production facility. Customer service. Delivery time is extremely important in ensuring for customer service satisfaction, which MPS can help with. Master production schedule help keep customer delivery promise through delivering in a timely and cost effective manner. Scheduling. MPS setup particular schedule for production of part and component that are utilized as input to material requirement planning. This ensured for an optimized and efficient production schedule that will ensure for on time delivery and for the product to be completed in the time that it is given with the available.
So, in your when you are doing MPS, the first objective that there should be thorough control over inventory. That you should have sufficient inventory so that your work does not get hampered. Desired level of inventory, not too much, not too less. So you are not producing something which is not being sold, or you are not, you don't have enough to sell in the market. So in both the cases should be avoided. Then setting up due dates. You should sell the, or the item should reach the customers when and how, in what quantity, at what cost they desire. Setting up due dates is very important. That is what is taken up in MPS, Master Schedule, uh, Production Schedule. Then, because this will only, if you keep the due date as promised, then this will lead to customer satisfaction. Because if customers are not satisfied, then naturally your further progress in the business will be hampered. And actually, to achieve all these things, proper scheduling of all your processes should be there. So these four objectives you have to keep in mind when you are dealing with master production scheduling.
Turn two.
This is the master production schedule flow chart. You have forecast, customer orders, then aggregate planning. MRP system is material required planning. How much material for each product you require, with what quantity, what quality, all those things are. Then what is your capacity to produce that particular thing? Are material adequate? Yes or no? It can be yes or no. So if it is known, then again you go back to master production scheduling. And if it is yes, then you proceed further and produce the desired product. Are uh, are capacity adequate? If yes, you continue with your process. If no, then again you go back to the master's production scheduling, revise your master schedule and see what is lacking, and then you rectify that thing. Arshita, you read. Is there any problem?
No, ma'am, no issue.
Can you see benefits of MPS?
Yes, ma'am. The benefits of MPS: ability to make adjustment to fluctuations in demand while minimizing waste, prevent shortages and scheduling mishaps, improve efficiency in the location of production resources, provide more effective cost controls and more accurate estimates of material requirement and delivery dates, reduce lead time throughout the year, provides on effective communication conduct with the sales team for planning purposes. MPS is the link between planning and manufacturing, being used on the basis for calculating the capacity and resources required to fulfill the production plans.
So here it is for a short time, ability to make adjustment to fluctuations in demand while minimizing waste. Suppose there is certain increase in demand or decrease in demand, so you make adjustment accordingly so that there is wastage is minimized. Suppose there is uh, so you have to, suppose there is an increase in demand, so you have to see from where you can get that extra input to fulfill that demand. It also prevents shortages and scheduling mishaps because it is being done in a very systematic way and for a short period of time. So it prevents uh, any shortages in your scheduling. So these things are avoided. And this improves efficiency in the location of production resources because it is ongoing process. Whenever things are required, from where it will be required, from how much it will be required, what will be the quantity, what will be the price, all these things are being monitored and accordingly things are being scheduled and done. And naturally, because it is being done in a planned way, so lead time, you have to plan beforehand when you require the material so that accordingly things should be ordered and in the right quantity, right amount, so that it reaches the production facility whenever it is required, not too early that it is lying waste or not too late it is hampering the production process. And naturally if things are moving, then you can uh, uh, collaborate with your salesperson. They'll know when things are being made, and accordingly they'll be selling it in, because with the external environment, the sales department is dealing. So they should know how things are moving. So this master scheduling plan tells them how things are moving, when it will be finished, when it should be delivered to the customers. So this is a link between planning and manufacturing and final delivery to the customer. Yes, Harshita?
What are the time fences in MPS? A key component of effective scheduling is the use of time fences to facilitate order promising and the entry of order into the system. Time fence divide the scheduling time horizon into three sections or phases: frozen, slushy, and liquid, in reference to the firmness of the schedule.
So you, when and how you will be doing it, you divide those things into different time frames so that this helps you in doing your work more smoothly in a more orderly manner.
Time fences in MPS. Time fences point in time that separate phases of a master schedule planning horizon.
So you can see it is divided into frozen or fixed time, slushy somewhat firm. It is a liquid when it is open. It might be for some time things are not moving. It is frozen. It is fixed. Then it starts moving and then it finally moves to the ultimate customer. This is just an example. You can have more than 1, 2, 3 as fixed time, and this might change according to the different master schedule plans. Yes, here it is the explanation.
Frozen. It is the near term phase that is so soon that delivery of a new order would be impossible, or only possible using very costly or extraordinary options such as delaying certain orders.
Hmm.
Slushy. Slushy is the next phase, and its time fence is usually a few periods beyond the frozen phase. Order entry is in this phase necessitates trades off, but is less costly or disruptive than in the frozen phase. Liquid. It is the farthest out on the time horizon. New orders or cancellation can be entered with ease. Order promise dates are tentative and will be firmed up with the passage of time. Order when orders are in the firm phase of the schedule horizon.
So naturally, when it is in the initial phase, it is frozen. It is at that time it is not easy to tell the sales department ki, you can deliver this because it is in the initial phase, so it is frozen. Slushy is the next phase, and finally you move to the liquid phase when it is further developed and you can make the delivery on time.
Time fences point in the planning horizon to define the flexibility allowed in the MPS. Frozen zone closest to the current date. Capacity and material committed to customer orders. Forecast generally ignored. Senior management approval for changes. Slushy zone, less commitment of material and capacity. Trade-off negotiated between marketing and manufacturing. Liquid zone, All changes allowed within the limits of the production plan.
So once you have reached the frozen zone, so that is, you cannot make much changes in it, because it, and if you want to make changes, you'll have to have senior management approval for it. And slushy phase is in between, when you have moved from liquid to zone to slushy zone and then to the frozen zone. Here you have to make a trade-off, which maybe something is required more before what you have already finished. So you can make a trade-off and do accordingly. And in the liquid zone, it is initially, so lot of changes, lot of things can be accommodated into it.
Conclusion. A key element in the success of the master scheduling process is strict adherence to time frames, policies, and rules. It is essential that they be adhered to and communicated throughout the organization.
So you can see, from initially, there's in the liquid phase, initially when you are in the liquid phase, you have lot of opportunity to make changes. But then from there you move to slushy phase, where that has become less, and in the fixed phase, now you are at the point of delivery. So changes over here is not all. That is why it is known as fixed phase. So you have to follow these things very closely so that you deliver the things as and when it is required. And this has to be communicate throughout the organization, because see, the thing is working in isolation. It is a combination, an interrelation of many parts of the system which are working together to achieve the objective, whatever it is, whatever they are producing, whether they are producing goods or services. I hope you have understood what is master production scheduling. Can you, someone, any of you summarize it? Hello,
Yes, ma'am.
uh, Praveen, what have you
Oh,
understood by it?
ma'am, the master production schedule, uh, it is it's planning this planning with taking certain considerations, ma'am. According to like the inventory, the capacity of the company, and moreover the time period time period of the orders, and also the customer demand.
And you can see it has to be divided into these three time fences, so that in the first fence, when you are in the liquid stage, it is moving, and if there is any changes or something has to be done to it, it is quite easy to do it. In the slushy stage, it becomes a bit difficult, but with the approval of senior management, it can be done. But when it comes to the fixed phase, and you have to, any product has to move these three time fences, and you have to be very careful about it that it is moving and it is reaching the customer at the right time, at the right quantity, and the right place. And that the whole that is why now the communication, it has to be moved throughout the organization. The whole organization should know how things are moving, how things are working, what is, if something goes wrong, what should be done to rectify it, and then make the matter uh, all right.
Okay, ma'am.
Is it the master scheduling is clear? It is after aggregate planning you move to master scheduling planning, where you are scheduling for the specific products, how much is required, when it is required, uh, what processes have to be done, when it has to be delivered, all these things. This is all in master scheduling. Now we'll be moving to material requirement planning. See, to produce something, you have to know what all materials you require and when you require and what quantity you require. And for that, now you have this computerized information system which helps you to do the planning, which was done initially, it was done manually, but now with the help of computerization, these things have become easier. Just 1 second, I'm going to open the next presentation. Can you see it?
No, ma'am.
Planning.
It's a slide.
No, ma'am.
You can see it.
No, ma'am. Miss,
Can you see it now? Hello?
Yes, ma'am. It is
Yes,
visible.
So, like, see, initially these things were developed in isolation, like material requirement planning, manufacturing requirement planning. Then everything was clubbed together, and now it is enterprise resource planning. So, today we'll be doing what is material requirement planning, which is also known as MRP1, because manufacturing requirement planning is also MRP. So that is known as MRP2. Harshita, you read.
Yes, ma'am. Definition: a computer-based information system that translates master schedule requirement for end items into time phase requirements for assemblies, components, and raw materials.
So suppose if you're making table, so what all do you require? A very simple table I'm talking about. A very simple table. A tabletop, its legs, then maybe you don't require it at one time. So what all is this? Uh, this is a computer based. Whenever the things are required, that has to be handed over to the production department so that the final product is produced. A computer-based information system that translates master schedule requirements for end items into time phase requirements for assemblies, components, and raw materials. So whenever you maybe at the first, suppose if you're making a simple thing like a table, naturally you require all these things together, or maybe you require wood, which is first will be converted only on tabletops. Then you'll require wood, again wood, which will be converted into the four legs of the table. Then they will be fitted together, and then the final product. So whatever is your schedule, it depends. The same work can be done in two different ways by two different. So, but you have to make the schedule of producing that thing. You what all things you require, when you should, what are the things you have to be done on it, and when it has to be done on it. This is just an extension of whatever is the scheduling, which is now being computerized. So these things can be the the output which we had identified in master schedule. This is same thing, but it is now computerized. Master schedule, you have the order forecast, design changes, receipts, withdrawals, all these things when they are in the liquid state. Then it is goes to the MRP computer programs, which then it produces the different reports, primary reports, secondary reports, inventory transaction, all those things it reports. And then when it is so from here it goes to the slushy stage and then finally to the fixed stage.
What is MRP? Material Requirement Planning is a system used for planning, production, and inventory control. It integrates data of production schedules with inventory and BOM to calculate
BO means
purchasing and shipping
bill of
schedules.
material.
Yeah, schedules for the material that are required to build the final product. What MRP does? The MRP system determines item by item what is to be processed and when, as well as what is to be manufactured and
Right.
when. Steps. The three basic steps of MRP are: determine quantity requirements, determine what quantity is in on hand in an open purchase order, planned for manufacturing, already committed to existing orders, and forecasted. These requirements are specific to each company and each company location and change with the date. MRP calculation. Create suggestion for material that you consider critical, expedited and delayed. Completion of orders. Delineate the material for the manufacturing orders, purchase orders and other reporting requirements.
So these are the different steps which MRP does. First of all, it determines how much what is required. Then creates which has to be which orders are critical, which orders have to be expedited, or which order has to be delayed. Then how it is being completed. So it separates into different orders. What is manufacturing orders, what is purchase orders, and what is report and other reporting, whatever they have to, like we have already seen in the output, the different reports it produces. Yeah, how much has been finished, when it has to reach to market, and things like that.
Inputs. Customer orders. This suggests to the particular data you get from clients and includes unique cases and consistent requesting designs. Forecast demand. This is the expectation from the marketplace about how much likely request there will be for an item or services. It depends on historic accounting and current pattern analysis. Master production scheduling. Both forecast demand and customer order feed into the master production schedule. The MPS is an arrangement that an organization creates for production, staffing, or stock. It is the production future arrangement that includes the amounts you need to produce the products in a specific time period. It additionally includes stock cost, creation cost, stock data, supply, lot size, lead time, and development capacity. Bill of materials, also called an item structure document. This incorporates the subtle elements and amount of the raw materials, assemblies, and the part that make up each finished result. Inventory records. These are the raw materials and the finished items that you either have available or have efficiently
Requested.
requested.
So these are the inputs on which you do the processing. What is the actual order you have received? What are the forecast? So these things you have to take a midway between these two. The actual orders plus some forecast. If it is more than that, then naturally you have to produce more than what is the actual demand which you have already. Then you have produced the master production schedule from both the forecast and the order. And then what all materials will be required from bill of materials, also called the item structure document. So this, and then the inventory required. What is, how much raw material you have, how much finished items you have, and then what all you are is either available or you have requested, you have ordered. So from all these inputs, you do the manufacturing, and finally the output will come and it has to be delivered to the market. So from output you go to in process. Yes, continue.
Process. Using information culled from the bill of materials, master schedule, and inventory record file. And MRP system determines the net requirements for raw materials, component parts, and sub-assemblies for each period on the planning horizon. MRP processing first determines gross materials requirements, then subtracts out the inventory on hand and adds back in the safety stock in order to compute the net requirement.
So this process goes, first of all, you have to find out how, you have see what all you require, then what all process, how it has to be converted into the finished good. So naturally, once it is, it what is the purchase order, then material plan, read it.
Output. Purchase orders. This is the prescribed buying plan that includes the request you provide for provisions to send the materials. The PO includes a timetable with the amounts and start and finish dates to meet the MPS. Material plan. The detail this detail the raw materials, assemble items, and part needed to make the finished product with the amount and dates. Work orders. This detail the work that goes into creating the finished results, including which divisions are in charge of what part, what materials are fundamental, and what the begin and dates are. Reports. MRP produces essential and auxiliary report. The essential reports includes every one of the three of the above, those that deal with the production and inventory planning and control. Auxiliary reports are those that detail things, for example, performance control, exception data, example, error or late orders, deviations and predictors of future inventories and contracts.
So these things which were done manual were previously done by, it is now computerized. So purchase order is produced, material plan is produced, work orders have been produced, different reports have been produced. So it
Thus, we can
produces, yes, continue.
thus we can say the main outputs from the MRP includes three primary reports and the three secondary reports. The primary reports consist of planned order schedules, which outlines the quantity and timing of future material orders. Order release, which authorize order to be made and changes to planned orders, which might include cancellations or revisions of the quantity or time frame. The secondary reports generated by MRP include performance control reports, which are used to track problems like missed delivery dates and stock out in order to evaluate system performances. Planning reports, which can be used in forecasting future inventory requirements. And exception reports, which calls managers' attention to major problem like late orders or excessive scrap rate.
So this automatically it will produce you these three, two types of reports, the primary reports and the secondary report. So in the primary report, it is the planned order schedule. Then what orders are released and changes in planned order, all these things. And the secondary reports generated by MRP will include performance control reports, uh, planning reports, exception reports. So all these things, that if the data is fed, all these things will be produced automatically. You can see in this. So from here you have the aggregate production plan. First orders from known customers. This is forecast. These both these go to produce aggregate product plan. From product plan you go to master scheduling, and from master scheduling you go to material requirement planning. This gets its input from engineering design changes, bill of materials, what all materials are required to produce it, inventory transaction, inventory record, and then they produce the report, which are three auxiliary reports and three primary reports and three secondary reports or auxiliary reports. So from aggregate product plan, you have moved to master product schedule, and from master produce, you have moved to material planning. Require. Continue.
Benefits. Make sure that raw materials and segment parts are always closed by for production to keep the production plan running easily. Support just-in-time production by enabling the most minimum level of material and stock to be accessible and still keep the production on track. Plan production timetables to take care of customer demands for items in a timely manner.
So these benefits you have to see to make sure that the raw material and segment parts are always close by for production. Wherever it is required, it is there. So that the production, whatever planning you have made, goes smoothly. And as far as possible, try to keep just in time, not too much and not too little. So the minimum level of material should be there. Stock should not pile up. And the production timetable, which is very essential. It should reach the customer when the customer requires it. Actually, drawback is the only drawback. It is very useful, but the only drawback it is time consuming and costly implementation. Now, once it is implemented, the initially it is costly, but once it is implemented, things start moving very quite smoothly. Uh, Harshita,
Yes, free. IBM engineer Joseph Orlicki developed MRP in 1964 after he studied the Toyota production system, which was the model for the lean production methodology. Power toolmaker Black and Decker built the first computerized MRP system that same year.
so way back in 64, it was developed by an IBM engineer to make things move more smoothly.
How does MRP work? MRP uses information from the bill of material, inventory data, and the master production schedule to calculate the required materials and when they will be needed during the manufacturing process.
And this is quite clear. So it uses input from bill of material, inventory data, master production schedule, and what all. So it can calculate what all material are required when it is required, and so the manufacturing process becomes easier and runs very smoothly.
Bill of material. The BOM is a hierarchical list of all the materials, subassemblies, and other components needed to make a product, along with their quantities, each usually shown in a parent-child relationship. The finished good product is the parent at the top of the hierarchy.
We- So suppose you are making a bicycle. Suppose you are making a bicycle. Now that bicycle will have the at the top will be the bicycle. That bicycle will be divided into different components, maybe handle, tires, things like that. So that is why it is known. So all the materials you require to make the handle, the seat, the tires, things like that, and then so it is in a parent-child relationship. At the top is the bicycle, and that is the parent, and the child are the different components required to produce that bicycle. So here it is shown in a hierarchical. Suppose it is a chair. Sorry, chair. So you for that you require it is a ladder back chair. So you ladder back subassembly, seat subassembly, front legs, leg support, and in that in ladder back what you require back legs, back slots. In seat assembly, subassembly you'll require seat frames, seat cushion, and in seat frame you'll require seat frame boards, all these things. So the, for producing this particular chair, this is the parent. So this is the parent. That is why it is known as the parent-child relationship. And this has got 4 children. This child has 2 other children, and so on. So this is the example of BOM or bill of materials. On this, the requirement of the material will be calculated. Yes.
Classification of inventory material and BOM. Independent demand. An independent demand item is a finished good at the top of the hierarchy. Manufacturer determines its amount by considering confirmed order and examining market conditions, past sales, and other indicators to create a forecast. Then decide how many to make to meet the expected demand. Dependent demand. Dependent demands items are the raw materials and components needed to make the finished good. For each of these items, demand depends on how many are needed to make the next highest component in the BOM hierarchy.
So you can see, as I told you, it can be a bicycle, it can be demand for what? Demand for bicycle, demand for chair, demand for table or what furniture. So that is an independent demand that you have to determine by considering confirmed order and also the forecast, market condition, past sales, other indicators. Create a forecast and then decide how many and to produce that chair or to produce that bicycle, what all materials you will be requiring. That is the dependent demand. So from independent demand, you go to the dependent demand. Because to produce that chair, you'll be requiring wood, you'll be requiring skilled manpower, you'll be requiring, say, some source of energy, you'll be requiring so many different things. So that is the dependent on the actual demand is the chair. But to produce that, you require other things to produce it. So that is dependent demand. So see, there is a chair. This is a chair, leg assembly, back assembly, seat. 2 legs, crossbar, back assembly, side rolls, crossbar. So this is a product structure of a tree which shows you the bill of material for producing a chair. And you see it at level 0, you have the chair. So this is your independent demand. But to produce this chair, you require legs, you require seat, you require back assembly. So these are things it is the dependent demand. So intended bill of materials at level 1, level 2, chair, leg assembly, leg seat, back assembly, and then finally you assemble all these things and you get the chair, which is your independent demand. So here, as I have already explained, the chair is the independent demand, legs, back and seat are the dependent demand. It will depend upon the chair. You have to Arshita?
Conclusions. MRP works backward from a production plan for finished goods to develop requirements for components and raw material. MRP begins with the schedule for finished goods that is converted in a schedule of requirements for the sub-assemblies, the component parts, and the raw material needed to produce the final product within the established schedules. MRP is designed to answer three questions: what is needed, how much is needed, and when it is needed.
So you can see, like for example, we were considering chairs. So this is chair. How many you require? See, maybe you require n number of chairs. So for each chair, you require legs, you require seat, you require backrest, all those things you require. So for you starting from the end product, and then you move backward and see what is your independent demand. Then for each independent demand, what are your dependent demands? Then how much you require of each dependent demand. Then you assemble them and you get the final product. So it is needed what is needed, how much is needed, and when it is needed. Maybe you won't need everything at the same go. Maybe for chair you might need all the things together, but for other things, if it is a very big, suppose you are producing an engine, so in that there are hundred of things, components. So everything will be won't require. So whenever it is required, it has to be there. So you have to plan accordingly. When, what is required, how much is needed, and when it is needed. These three questions are answered in your material required and planning. Any questions?
No, ma'am.
I have taken a very simple example of a chair. It can be anything. It can be a very complex thing. Maybe a vehicle, maybe an engine, to which you require will be having thousands of components. Your independent demand is, say, the vehicle, a passenger car or a commercial vehicle. But for to produce that, what all you will be requiring, when all you will be requiring, how much you will be requiring. So this is all is being calculated by an automated system known as material requirement planning.
Ma'am,
You don't have
it
any
is,
questions?
yeah,
Yes?
ma'am, a question, ma'am. The material requirement
Huh.
planning, is it the software or just a
No, it
documented?
is a software. It is a software. But nowadays, actually, I have started from, it was developed in 1964, but now it has been integrated into your enterprise resource planning. This
Integrated.
is just one part.
Okay.
Now, everything is integrated. Your financial part, your marketing part, your human resource part. So, because to fulfill your objective, you need a total integration of everything. Don't no. This is just looking at one thing, just looking at the material required to produce that particular object. But to produce that, you will be required help from the HR. You will require help from finance. You will require help from marketing. So now things have moved further, and now have moved to enterprise resource planning.
Okay, ma'am.
This is the first simple block towards this integration. जैसे पहले क्या था, अभी हम लोग मल्टीमीडिया की बात करते हैं, पहले अलग अलग था, अब सब कुछ एक साथ हो गया है, your video, your audio, everything. So similarly, because all of you are from working experience, you should have experienced this in your field.
Yes, ma'am.
Can any one of you share your experience? Harshita or Praveen? Kumar, Gaurav,
No, ma'am. No,
any
ma'am.
one of you? Because you have the practical experience. Okay, then that is all for today. Good night.
Okay. Good night, ma'am.
Good night.